All right, well, a good Sunday to you. Thanks for finding us here. I'm Fox 26 meteorologist John Dawson. It's our tropical update every afternoon around 4 p.m. Central Time. We're here bringing you the latest on what's happening in the Atlantic Basin. And sometimes we even dip into the Pacific Basin just a little bit. But today we'll be talking about the Atlantic. And overall, it's still a fairly quiet picture. And that's pretty much what we'd expect for this time of the year, although we are certainly looking for the season to be very active. We're going to talk about that a little bit more here in a minute. But right on track kind of with where we'd expect to find things. Typically, I think June 20th is the sort of average for when you would see the first activity, and we're kind of right on track with that. I believe Alberto showed up on the 19th, so really not that far off from what we would expect to have in a season. And we're still kind of making that transition into La Niña when we expect to really have even more activity. And here I am once again getting ahead of myself. Hold off on the La Niña talk for just a minute. Let's get in on what's happening across our Atlantic Basin right now. And as I mentioned, things are fairly quiet. As we moved into the weekend, we had two areas of invest that we were watching. One of them in the southeastern portions of the U.S., more or less where Georgia and South Carolina kind of gather there along the coast. That system has no longer getting the attention of the National Hurricane Center, but we still have Invest 93L. This is the one that is still barely, this broad area of low pressure, still barely over water. And as you can see with some of our modeling here, it's definitely taking it pretty much due west into Mexico. And once that system gets over land, it loses its possibilities, its opportunities at least to form a tropical system, so we won't be expecting that, but certainly a lot of rainfall expected as Invest 93L continues to hang on for a few more hours. Probably if you check back in here on Monday, we're not going to be able to talk much about Invest 93 at this point. So as I mentioned, just barely centered as best as you can over water over the next several hours, probably even by the time we get to 10 o'clock tonight, we'll see that system is going to be something no longer gathering the interest of the National Hurricane Center. No matter what, we're certainly looking at some rainfall that's going to be associated with this area of low pressure. And you can see with some of our expectations over the next 7 days, this is 7 days worth of rain. We're going to be piling that up probably 3 to 5 inches. And that'll definitely catch the attention since it'll be in a short period of time for those folks right along that coast of Mexico. A little bit further to the north into Texas, we'll have some rain. Again, this is 7 days worth of rain that we're looking at. So some rain, but it'll be pretty scattered, pretty isolated overall as far as what we're seeing. And as I mentioned, the National Hurricane Center in their tropical outlook giving it a 20% chance of rain, both a 20% chance of tropical formation over the next 48 hours or 7 days. And again, really running out of a window. It's going to be probably more like a 6-hour window that it would have possibly to get itself organized into a tropical system, but not really looking for much of that to happen. All right, now let's have that talk about the La Niña as expectations. So we've been in El Nino. We're transitioning past the neutral phase all the way into La Niña. We're expected pretty much by the time we get into August to be in a strong El Nino phase. And I believe the last reports that I've heard is that we've really reached that point right now and in the La Niña expectations. Far as what we can see in the tropics, just that quick reminder, this is sort of a global pattern that has influences on all sorts of weather across the globe. So what spurs this or really starts this is some cooler waters over the Pacific equator. So that's a long way from the United States and really the Atlantic in general, but it has these effects overall. So the waters get cooler than usual in the Pacific waters along the equator. And that in turn makes a little less wind shear over into the Pacific. Where there's going to be less tropical activity overall, or the activity is a little less because there's less wind shear. And then we get over, I should say there should be a little bit more wind shear over here, so we're going to be looking at less tropical activity in the Pacific. But for sure, when we get into the Atlantic, this is where we're going to expect more activity because of that wind shear. So wind shear is upper level winds, and those are going to be higher than we would sometimes see them. And so when you have those higher winds, that makes it more difficult for a tropical system to hold itself together and to grow stronger. But in the La Niña, those lower. So we have less of that upper level winds, which gives it better chances to grow stronger and to organize more quickly. So that's why we're looking at the numbers to be a little bit higher. And so giving you some actual numbers, and this overall, in the bigger scheme of things, as far as like climate patterns go, as far as just record books in general, 1950, that's not really all that far back. Normally, we can take our records here in the U.S. back to the 1850s as far as just recordings that have been very accurate and well documented. With La Niña and El Nino patterns, it's a little different because, first of all, we didn't really know about it until much more recent times. And then with the help of satellites, we can really do a better job of tracking activity of the tropics. So this data going back to 1950, in El Nino years, we've had about 254 named storms. Of those, 99 have become hurricanes. And then you can see the numbers much higher in the La Niña years, 369 named storms, and over 150 of those are becoming hurricanes. So that's sort of some numbers there to kind of show that for you. And so we really do expect to move through the majority of this list by the time we get to November. But as normal, we would expect, it's August when we expect to ramp up the activity, when we're just going to be checking these things off much quicker than what we were really kind of seeing at the moment. But Alberto, done, in the books. Beryl is going to be our next one that we're talking about, and we'll see how long it takes to get to Beryl. I'm not in a hurry, especially if we could just kind of keep these systems out in the Atlantic or not making a whole lot of landfall. That would certainly be my preference. All right, so we're glad you found us, whether you're here on YouTube or you're on fox26houston.com. I know the YouTube channel gets a little bit more of an outreach, but we're always glad that you found us. It'd be great if you want to connect with me on my Instagram account. I'm at John Dawson Fox 26. I've got some hurricane preparedness items there, just sort of a little bit more in the day in the life of a meteorologist as well. So again, at John Dawson Fox 26, fantastic way to connect on Instagram if you get a chance to do that. Otherwise, leave some comments on YouTube. Find us on fox26houston.com, and we'll see you back here again tomorrow with another update.